Are you tired of being disorganized, sick of miscommunications, and just plain fed up with being lonely? Hi, I'm Marge, and I'm here to tell you about something extraordinary. For centuries, man has been trying to figure out the mysteries of a balanced life. Well, now, we have the answer. In this book, you'll identify the key to balancing work and family life. You'll be able to take control of your finances, get your health headed in the right direction, and invest in those key relationships. Call our toll-free number to get your copy now, or text Canvas Book to 51400. But wait, there's more. Call in the next 10 seconds and we'll double your order for absolutely free. But wait, there's more. Mention the name Marge and I'll throw in a free coffee card.
This offer is not expired. We are not responsible for any unrealistic expectations or damages done to disobedient children or annoying pets. All calls are recorded for quality assurance, patent pending for the product.
You never have to watch it again. That's the last time. Okay, but just for fun, how many of you actually called the phone number and listened to the phone number? Yeah, one, two, three. Last week we were on vacation and we were at home watching Canvas, because even when we were on vacation we wanted to do Canvas. And so we were watching it, and when the number came up, I go, kids, and I paused it and I go, let's call the number. Oh, we just died laughing. It's hilarious. So if you haven't done it yet, it's worth watching that online one more time, work your way through it, and then call the number, because it'll keep you entertained for way longer than it should. Okay. So glad that you're here on that. Give you something to do this afternoon, because the Seahawks don't play until tonight, but glad you're here. Hey, three things I want to challenge you really quickly before we jump into our series. This is the final message of this series, The Greatest Mystery. And can you believe Christmas is 2.5 weeks away? It's insane, but the snow is coming. How many of you got the snow this morning? Come on, it's already gone, but I'm excited about it. Christmas is coming, and three things I want you to do as we move into the end of December. So every week this week. Number one is I want you to engage strongly here at Canvas Church. Make a church a priority. Be here every weekend as we start our new series next week. It's called Do Not Be Afraid. We're talking about why Christmas has so much fear, and we're going to break that apart. Why does Christmas and just life have so much fear? So we're going to break that apart. How does that fit? How does that work? So engage strongly, make it a priority. Number two, I want you to give generously. Make sure that you're honoring God with your finances. Keep Him number one when it comes to your finances and honoring Him. And then the third thing I want you to do is I want you to invite ferociously. Man, invite everyone you know to experience Canvas, especially during the Christmas season, because people are much more willing to say yes. So invite your spouse, invite your children, invite your coworkers, invite your enemies, mostly invite your enemies. Torture them by bringing them to church. But invite them. Here's the standard of our invite. If they're breathing, invite them. Just go right there, and you'll never be wrong. So engage strongly, give generously, and invite ferociously. We want that to be who we are as a church. Okay, let me give you sort of a recap of this series, The Greatest Mystery. We're talking about how to lead yourself, and the greatest mystery is the person that looks back at you in the mirror. That is the greatest mystery. That's you. And so we started week one talking about how you are the CEO of your life. And everybody was like, yes, I'm the chief executive officer of my life. And then we talked about how you're not the owner of you. God is the owner or the world is the owner. You get to choose your owner, but you're never the owner. And then we were like, no, I don't like that. How do we deal with that? So that message was week number one. Then we talked about having a winner's mindset. We need to have a winner's mindset because Jesus Christ is alive. And sometimes our faith looks like Jesus never walked out of the grave. And so we need to have a winner's mindset, that He's alive and His Holy Spirit lives within us and empowering us to live the life He calls us to live. That's the winner's mindset. And then we talked about this now but not yet concept, the shakalaka of life. That life has and shakalaka's coming someday. And so we talked about that whole concept. So you can hear that message as well. And then last week, Ryland spoke a message. Pastor Ryland, our youth pastor, spoke a message on having the right friends and having friends that are one shoe size bigger than yours as they mentor you and grow. Didn't he do a great job last week? Oh, incredible job. And now today we're going to talk about, let's stand and pray, and then I'll tell you. Stand up, let's pray. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pray, then you're going to double high five everybody, and then we're going to jump into the message. Okay, Father, thanks for the day. And over these next few moments, as we talk about your word and the principles that we can take from your word and apply them to our life, May we have ears to hear it. May we have hearts to receive it, believe it, accept it, and then feet to live it. I pray this in your name. May there just be a spiritual transaction that takes place over these next 30 minutes. Me letting go of my life and following after what you want. In Jesus' name. Everyone said? Amen. Double high five your neighbor, then go ahead and have a seat. Yeah, see, it's hilarious to see what people think double high five is, you know. Some of you are like, ha ha, oh, I'm sorry I hit you in the face, you know. And some of you are like double high five, and some of you are like hip, you know. Some of you with artificial hips, you're like, we're really into it. That's great. Wow, good double high fiving, everyone. Good double high fiving. See, church can be fun. It's okay. Hey, I want to start as we break down a story out of the Old Testament that I think is going to help us really ask some good questions to leading ourselves and working through some stuff. So this is a lot more of a talk today more than it is a preach today. I'm just going to sort of talk us through some principles and some ways of thinking that we should. And there's this great story in the Old Testament that helps us sort of discover these truths. But it starts in Exodus chapter 18, and I think this is the perfect holiday verse or the perfect Christmas verse. I'll read it and then you'll be able to put the connections to it. Here's what it says. Exodus 18:6 says, Jethro had sent a message to Moses saying, I, Jethro, your father-in-law, am coming to see you and your wife and your 2 sons. And I think that happens at holiday season all the time. The in-laws call and they say, we're coming for Thanksgiving. And you're like, great, you know, and so here's Jethro. He sends a message to Moses saying, hey, I'm coming and I'm bringing your wife and kids, you know, and I'm sure the courier was running into the camp going, the in-laws are coming, the in-laws are coming, and then Moses gets the message and he sees, hey, my wife and kids are coming. The reason, probably the reason why the wife and his wife and 2 boys were with Jethro was Moses was leading the Israelites out of Egypt. They had been in captivity for years and years and years and years and years. And Moses had gone in, and this is where he says, let my people go to Pharaoh. And then the 10 plagues happen. And then Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt. And now they're out of Egypt. They're across the Red Sea. And Jethro's coming and bringing his 2 boys and his wife to meet them all there. And that's what happens. And Moses greets his father-in-law as he comes in. And he says hello to him. And they have this great interchange. And then they go into their home or their tent or whatever, and they go into their home, and they're hanging out. They're sort of playing catch up. You know, when the in-laws come, you sort of catch up on what's going on in life. And that's what Moses begins to do with Jethro. It's pretty awesome. Moses begins to tell Jethro all the things that had been happening leading the Israelites out of Egypt. He talks about the 10 plagues, and you know, the lice and the frogs and the water turning to blood. And he's going through all those stories. He's talking about how God led them across the Red Sea, how the Red Sea parted, and they went across it, how they needed water, and how God spoke to Moses, and the water which was bitter became sweet. And he's talking about all this stuff, and Jethro's listening to all this. I mean, wouldn't it be awesome to have a first-hand account of all the things Moses did, and you could hear from Moses? Wouldn't that be awesome? Well, you can. It's called Exodus, and you can read it right there. See what I did there? Boom. So Jethro's hearing all this, and it totally moves Jethro's heart. In fact, Jethro acknowledges, he says to Moses, well, read it. Verse 9 here, it says this, Jethro was delighted when he heard all about the good things. Because Jethro is not a Hebrew. He's not familiar with the Hebrew God. And Jethro was delighted when he heard about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel as he rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians. In fact, in the next verse, Jethro goes and he makes a sacrifice to the one true God and says to Moses, you truly serve the one true God. Your God is above all other gods. I mean, for an in-law visit, this is going phenomenal. I mean, Moses just has to be awesome. And then we come to verse 13. There's always a verse 13. And here we are, verse 13. I love the first 3 words. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people disputes against each other. They waited before him from morning till evening. Here, the next day. First of all, Jethro hasn't even been there for 24 hours. And Moses is back to work, and he's sitting up. And in fact, let's put that verse up there again, because I want you to read. I call this the DMV verse of the Bible. Department of Motor Vehicles. Here it is. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other, and they waited before him from morning till evening. I would hate to be at the end of the line because they didn't even have a number system. I don't even know what they did, you know. And what Moses would do is he would sit there and he would give God's perspective to everybody's disputes or questions or tensions. They'd line up and he would give them the ruling, and he would give them the ruling, and he would give them the ruling, and he would give them the ruling. And Jethro was watching this take place. Jethro's sitting there watching his son serve, and he's watching this happen from morning till evening. And then we get verse 14, and verse 14 says this. It says, when Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he asked, don't you just love it when the father-in-law starts asking questions? Because here's what's happening. Father-in-law starts asking questions. What are you really accomplishing here? Why are you trying to do this all alone while everyone stands around you from morning till evening? Now remember, this is just the next day. Like Jethro has just shown up and he's watching Moses work, and to Jethro, he's like, this doesn't make sense. Like, Moses, what do you really think you're accomplishing here? Moses, what are you thinking? And Moses replies, verse 15 and on, but verse 15, we see how Moses' perspective. Moses says this. Moses replied, because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. Totally plays the God card. Because the people come to me, get a ruling from God. Here's what he's doing. I'm doing what God told me to do. Father-in-law. Like, I'm serving. I'm sacrificing. I'm leading. I'm really doing what God told me to do. And then we get verse 17. I called this the face palm verse of the Bible. Here's what he says. Jethro speaking, this is not good. This is not good, the father-in-law exclaimed. So, I've seen this look before. It's this, son-in-law. Very, very familiar with that. Son-in-law, this is not good. My father-in-law exclaimed. Just joking. I'm just having fun. My mother-in-law watches every message. Love you. What's her name? Just joking. Her name is Vicky Honey, and she is a honey. Boom. Moving on. No, I said it the way she told me to. This is the facepalm verse of the Bible. Oh, this is not good. You think about it for a second. Let's just look at this text here for a second. Who does Jethro even think he is? He just showed up the day before. He probably hasn't even been there a 24-hour cycle. And he hears all these great stories. He's seeing all the amazing things God has done, and then he starts criticizing Moses' leadership. Think about that. 24 hours, he's like, well, let me tell you what I see here, son. What do you think you're accomplishing? Hello? What do you think Moses is thinking? I don't know exactly what Moses was thinking. I found a little bit more entertainment thinking about, well, how would I respond if I was Moses? So here's how I would respond. Hello, father-in-law Jethro. I am doing what God told me to do. You know, G-O-D? I'm just doing what he wants me to do. And Jethro, how many people have you ever led? Shepherd. All you do is take care of sheep that poop and baa. What do you, you're my favorite. You're just my favorite. What do you know? And I'm the one that led the people away from Pharaoh and across the Red Sea and got them water. I mean, that would be the human response, the fleshly response. And I guess the question that we have to wrestle with a little bit here before we get to the topic that we're going to talk about is who's right? Like, is Jethro sticking his nose where it doesn't belong? Should Moses just continue to follow his own judgment? what do we do with those questions? And here's the reality. Jethro is correct in what he's saying. Jethro is correct because here's the deal. He's watching all of this, and he recognized that his son-in-law had hit a leadership lid. And that's the idea of what I want to talk about today. Moses had hit a leadership lid. See, the hardest person that you're ever going to lead is the person that looks back at you in the mirror. And who is that? That's yourself. The hardest person you're ever going to lead is yourself. And there are going to be times in your life, every one of us, where we're going to hit leadership lids in our life. And let me tell you what a lid does. A lid is a barrier that stops you from growing. A lid is a barrier that stops you from moving forward. A leadership lid is a barrier that doesn't get you to where you're probably supposed to go. It stops the expansion of your influence. It stops you from making a difference. And what you do is you keep hitting that lid in your life, and you'll find that you get frustrated. And you find that it's not working the way you thought it was going to work, and you end up getting a headache because your head is hitting the lid. And leadership lids can affect many different areas of our life. There are business leadership lids. There's parenting leadership lids. There's relationship lids. There's marriage lids. There's financial lids that you hit in life, and if you don't address them, you'll never get through them. I'll give you some examples of some lids. We'll start with a business. An example of a business leadership lid is if you as a leader, if you're leading a business, if you don't learn how to expand, and let me say it this way, if you don't learn how to delegate or empower others, you're going to hit a lid because you're going to have to do everything. And that means you don't have the time to do that only which you can do. And so you hit a leadership lid because your business is going to stop going forward because, why? Because you can't delegate away. And your business will never grow if you don't let go. In fact, that's a very important phrase right there. If you're in business, if you're in leadership, here's an important phrase. It will not grow if you don't let go. That's all. You can always come back to that principle right there. It's called a business lid, leadership lid. And there's parenting lids. If you're the type of parent that never wants your kid to experience something negative, you know what they call them, a helicopter parent? And you're all like around your kid the whole time, making sure everything is going good, and that kid's gonna succeed at everything they're gonna do, and they're getting a participation award just for breathing, and you're like, you're all around them, and they get like a I don't know the number system, let's go with grades, and they get like a C when you know your child deserves an A, so the teacher's an idiot, and you're just like, I don't know what that teacher's thinking, you know, that's a parenting lid. Because your child's gonna grow up no confidence. Because our confidence grows when we fail and we learn how to pick ourselves up. And so what we do is we steal confidence from our children thinking we're being great parents. It's called the parenting lid. And then you're frustrated that your kid never tries anything. It's a parenting lid. Or maybe there's relationship lids. We get these relationship lids all, you know, because stuff happens in our life, so we're like, you know, but I'm not gonna trust ever again. I'm not going to trust because I've been hurt before. And so what happens is we get this trust lid, relational lid in our life. And we're not going to trust people. And so what we do is we self-sabotage all of our relationships. We start to get people, but then we're like, and we start freaking out because we can't trust them. And then we self-sabotage every relationship. And then we're always mad at everybody else. But the problem is the person that looks back at us in the mirror. We've hit a relational lid. The issue is me. And Jethro recognizes Moses' lid. He's sitting there all day going, Moses, you have so much ability. Moses, what are you, this is not good. Moses' father-in-law exclaimed. And then Moses explains, or Jethro, I should say, explains to Moses why it's not good. There's a lot of principles. I want to do another entire message on this, just as some of the way that Jethro approaches. He does a great job. But listen to what he says as he explains this. Exodus 18:18, he says this. You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. Let me just stop right there and say this. Your leadership lids will give you a headache, but they give everybody else a headache as well. Your leadership lids give you a headache, and they give everybody else a headache. Let's continue. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Think about how Moses felt at the end of the day. Just hearing people's problems all day. Do this. Do this. You know what's going to happen in Moses? It's human nature. He's going to start hating everybody. He's just going to simply be going, you're an idiot, and you're an idiot, and you're an idiot, and you're an idiot, and you're an idiot. He's just going to become hard to it. And think of the people waiting all day to see Moses, and then the sun sets, and they didn't get to see him, and they don't have a number, and they couldn't register online. They're going to have to come back the next day. I don't even know if they had like a rock system. Oh, your rock's big. You get to go for it. I don't know how it worked. Get back in line. You know, and then just to get up there, and then Moses is like, you're an idiot. I waited all day to be told I'm an idiot. The system was broken. See, Moses was hitting a lid, and he didn't even recognize it. Sometimes we hit lids and we don't even recognize it. We just have a headache. And we're mad at everybody else. He was hitting a lid, and it was affecting him so he could not lead himself, and it was affecting him so he could not lead others. And here it is, I'm going to say it again. Leadership lids. Lids are a reality of our life, and we all hit them. Now, they're not always bad. Not all lids are bad. I'll break that down in a little bit, but not all lids are bad. Some lids are a catalyst for life change. You'll hit a lid and go, this is affecting me, and you're going to make changes that are going to help you grow in your ability to lead yourself and your family and others and business, and it's going to be great to power through it. Sometimes there's lids that are healthy that keep you back, that need to be respected for that season of time. So not all lids are bad, but we all run into them and have to be aware of them. Let me break this down personally for you. You're gonna get to hear a lot about just my own life in personal lids through these next few moments here. And part of that is connected to what we're doing together today. That's just church. And leading this church. I've hit a lot of leadership lids in leading this church. When I moved here about 7.5 years ago, we had about 480 people in our church at that time. That is about, we'll have less than that. That's less than what we're gathering here today. We have over 480 just in this room. And so that's when I first came here. You would lead a church that's around 480 a certain way. Now, last weekend, we had over 4,000 in all of our gatherings that have come to Canvas, that make Canvas home. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But the principle, the point that I bring that up for is we're still too small. God's will is that none should perish. We need to be running around 70,000 if we're doing a good job. So keep the pressure on. Seriously, we want to be hungry for the lost. So I don't celebrate 4,000. I just get more hungry to reach more people for Jesus. Are you with me? Are you with me? We got to see the harvest. Yeah, come on. Yeah. Till every name hears and every knee bows. Come on. But I'll tell you, you lead a church of 4,000 different than you lead a church of 500. And I've hit a lot of leadership lids along the way. One of the things I try to do is I try to see future leadership lids that are going to stop me from being an effective leader. And I'll try to adjust before I start hitting them, because who wants to get a headache? But then there were some that I just hit. And then hit. And hit again. Thinking if I hit it harder, I'll get through it. And that just gives to a bigger headache to myself and everybody else around me. And I hit it and hit it and hit it and hit it. So some leadership lids I've discovered by hitting them very hard. And then there's been other leadership lids in my own life. I'll give you an example of one that have just been pointed out to me. That have just said, Kevin, you're doing this wrong. Or in other words, one of them, we had a guest speaker come in. His name is Troy Jones, and he pastors at the time. This is several years ago. He was pastoring a church that was a little bit bigger than ours, and so I brought him in, and he spoke. He speaks every year. He does a great job. I love him. He's a big mentor in my life, and so I had him speak to our core team, pastoral team, and he was sitting there talking about the way we should be thinking as our church continued to grow, as we began to win more people for Jesus. Some of the challenges that he faced, we were learning. One size bigger than us, shoe size. We were learning from his growth, and then he looked at me right in the middle of the meeting, and he said, Kevin, I want to ask you a question. How many counseling sessions do you do a week with people? And I was like, oh, baloney. Because here's why. I love people. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I would meet with each one of you if I could. It'd be just fun. I love it. In fact, when I read the story about Moses, standing and sitting, I'm like, that's what I would do. That's brilliant. And I said, well, I'm meeting about 15 people a week. He's like, you're an idiot, Kevin. In a kind, loving, wonderful way. He goes, you're going to wear yourself out. He goes, you don't have the capacity to do that. I was hitting a lid of leadership where I thought I had to meet with everybody. And my heart is I want to meet with everybody. But as we continue to grow, it just wasn't reality. He goes, Kevin, that's a lid. And I had to work to identify that lid and make shifts and changes and realize, I'm like, well, yeah, but who are they going to meet with? I'm the smartest one here. I don't know why you're laughing. I thought I would get a... And we got brilliant people. They don't have to meet with you, Kevin. They just see you, so they want to meet with you. And then that balance that we had to learn. We have great team here that love people. So I've had to learn how to identify lids. And I work really hard at identifying lids in my own life because I got a lot of them. And I want to work through them. I work really hard just at home life or Canvas. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the next 5-6 minutes here, and I want to share with you how I personally identify lids in my own life. Just very transparent with you of how I identify lids in my own life. And maybe you can pick a couple of these up and they will help you discover lids within your life that God wants you to break through. The first one for me is when I respond emotionally. I'm an emotional person, but when I respond out of anger or frustration, I know I'm hitting a lid. When my response is, ugh, or anger, or I take everything personally, don't know if you ever do that, then I know, you know what, I'm probably hitting a lid. I'm probably hitting a lid. Like if my wife says something to me, because it's not always work. I get lids at home. Because I used to have one child, then I had 2, then I had 3, then I had 5, then I had 9. Whoa. It's just like we get foster girls in our house. And if my wife says something to me, and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm defensive and taking it personal, leadership lid. Like, why am I doing it? When I respond emotionally, when I'm frustrated with everyone else, I need to go look in the mirror and then I see the problem. I'm going to say that again because you didn't want to hear it. When I'm frustrated with everyone else, I can go look in the mirror and I can see the problem. Leadership lid. When I make excuses, I know I'm hitting a leadership lid. When I make excuses, I want to be a can-do person. So when I am a cannot person, I'm like, why all of a sudden is cannot coming out so quickly? I want to, now sometimes it's cannot is the right answer. I want to start with sure can. And then I'll wrestle with to the cannot. But when I'm quick to go, can't do that, and I don't even consider the sure can, I'm hitting a leadership lid. Let me just tell you really quickly how I lower my cable bill. You might want to take notes on this. I'll call my cable bill up and I go, hey, I don't want to pay as much as I'm paying. And they're like, uh-huh. And I'll talk with them and they'll say, nope, we can't do anything for you. And then I'll ask this question. Do you even have the power to say yes to my question? And they'll go, not really. Well, I'm not going to take a no from someone who can't even say yes. Because the minute I called them, there was only one answer I was ever going to get. That was no, because that's all they're empowered to say. So I'll very kindly, in a Jesus-loving kind of way, say, well, I hope you're having a great day. Can I talk to someone who can say yes? And then when you get to someone who can say yes, you often get a yes. But you're never going to get yes from someone who can just say no. And so when I take that, I'm like, oh, that's very good. And I end up still paying the same amount for my cable bill. But I will say this. I want to have a sure can answer. That means I want to start with a yes. I want to start with a yes. And when I'm making excuses, when I'm blaming my team, go look in the mirror. When I'm blaming my wife and kids for the way my house is, go look in the mirror. You're probably hitting a leadership lid. But another one for me that tells me when I'm hitting a leadership lid in something area of my life is when I stop having fun. And this might be a personality one. I like having fun. Even when days are dark, I want to have fun. Here's how I define fun. Funny, unexpected, and new. That's fun for me. Funny, unexpected, and new. Let me just say it this way. I want to have a fun marriage. I do. When my marriage isn't fun, we're hitting a leadership lid. Let's figure it out. Because I want my marriage should be fun. She's my best friend. There's a lot of athletic things you can do when you're married that's fun. Okay? No. I was thinking about snowshoeing. I like to have fun. I want, and so my marriage, I want my workplace to be fun. I want church to be fun. I'm just going to choose that when it's not fun, I'm going, what's going on? Even when it's dark, even when my wife and I are struggling and leading our kids, or there's a tension that we have with each other, we're going to navigate through that. Why? Because our goal is we want to have fun together. I want life to be fun. Here's another one. This is huge. When you think the answer is to work harder, you're hitting a lid. But that's often the case. Moses probably thought, okay, I'll just work harder, Jethro. So he would just say an idiot faster. Idiot, 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 idiot. Look, I'm getting through so many more people. Idiot, 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 idiot. Not the answer. Often working harder is not the answer. I'll say this about our Canvas staff here. We have, without an exception, our Canvas staff works hard here. So anytime I think the answer is let's work harder, that's a leadership problem. They're already working hard. Jessica, you work hard. You're a hard worker. I'm proud of you. The answer for her is not to work harder. Alan, you work hard. You work too hard. Take a day off once in a while. Okay? The answer is not, my wife works hard. I don't need to come home and say, honey, you need to work harder. How do you think that's going to go over? All the guilty men are laughing. I can hear it. No, it's not to work harder. That's not the problem. We got to be more creative than that. Okay. Here's the other one. This might be the most important of all of them. In fact, I would say this is the most important of all of them. When your home life starts to suffer. Hear me on this. You're hitting a lid. Health and success start at home, never work. Say it again. Health and success start at home, never work. If you succeed in business but lose at home, you're a failure. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Welcome to church. Love you. If you succeed at home but fail at business, you're still a success. Because success and health start at home. I will not lose my family so that Canvas can grow. Never going to happen. I love Jesus with all my heart, and he says, great, make sure you honor your wife. Then you can worry about the church. Because he's pretty good to take care of it. And then the last one I'll talk about, that is when someone calls me out. I discover lids when people call me out. Not always my favorite way. In fact, I like that one the least. But when someone calls me out on something, there's really two things I look at. Number one, I recognize it probably cost them to tell me. So they are spending their influence to tell me I'm hitting a lid. And number two, they probably truly love me. Jethro loved Moses. Jethro was proud of Moses. Nobody probably wanted to see Moses succeed more than Jethro did. So there's where, from his heart, he's like, this is not good. So we have to ask ourselves our question, am I hitting a lid? And just to be real with us right now, since I'm sort of being transparent, how many of you are thinking about a lid that you're hitting right now? Lift your hand up. Because the reality is we all hit lids. And some of you are sitting there and you're going this, you're doing this. Well, that could be a lid. I don't think it's a lid. It might be a lid. Probably not. That's called denial. Welcome to hitting a lid. So what do? Very quickly, what do you do when you hit a lid? You call AAA. No, it's true. You call AAA. I'm going to give you 3 words that start with A really fast. It's AAA. It's how I remember it. First thing you got to do is you got to admit, I have a lid. You have to admit, I have a lid. Because you'll never deal with that lid until you admit you have a lid. So some of you, when I just asked that question, you're like, well, I don't know if it's a lid or not. You just need to admit it. Probably is a lid. It's holding you back. It's not helping you grow. It's stopping you from going probably where God wants you to go. So you have to admit it. I can't meet with everybody I want to every week. I hate that lid. It's just a reality, though. It's a healthy lid to understand. I have to let that go and just say, I'm not going to be able to meet with everybody I want to. I want to meet with everybody. It's how I'm wired. But if we want to make the biggest difference that we possibly can, I got to do the things that only I can do, and that changes that. So I have to acknowledge when I come into a wall or a lid, when I hit a lid, I have to go, okay, that's a lid, and I have to admit it. Just this week, I had to admit a lid in my life, and I don't like this lid. I'm going to tell it to you. We were talking about as our church is growing and adding gatherings and where we're going to add gatherings. So I came up with this great idea. I don't know what you think about this, but I thought it was brilliant. And that is, let's do a gathering on Monday night and Tuesday night and Wednesday night and Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday night and a whole bunch on Sunday, and I'll speak them all live. And the team was like, stupidest idea ever. But I could do church all the time. I love being the only one to talk and have everyone listen. That's great, you know? But here's the, I'll do it, but that doesn't make sense. So we said, Kevin, how many gatherings can you actually speak a week live? I said, I can do 7. We're only at 5 right now, and then we have campuses that are doing video, and we're developing other communicators. But I can do 7. And some of the team were like, you're already struggling at 5. Have you heard your Wednesday night? I'm like, shut up. Wednesday night's my best. They get the best jokes because I'm testing them, and if they don't laugh, you don't get them. If you want to see raw Wednesday night, I'm also trying to get some of you to leave this gathering at the same time. That was passive aggressive. So I just had to admit, here's a reality lid that I'm going to hit. I can speak 7 gatherings a week. And if I do 8, I'm in the funny farm. You know, it's just a reality. So you have to admit your lid right now. Admit to yourself what your lid is. Just admit it. Say, I'm hitting this lid. That gets me to second A. The second A is this. You have to analyze that lid then. You have to look at that lid and you have to analyze it. Why am I hitting it? Why is it there? I have to go, okay, let's look at this idea here. Is this something I can grow through? Like if I exercise, could I do 10 live gatherings a week? No. Emotionally draining. Or is it a healthy lid or is it a negative lid? A negative lid, what can I do to get through it? A healthy lid is what are my expectations that maybe need to change. I'll give you an example. Maybe you're a parent right now and you're trying to start this business and get your business to grow. And yet the more you focus on your business growing, the more your home life is suffering. Maybe, and you're hitting that parent lid. You're losing your temper with them. You're getting mad. Maybe what you need to do is realize, you know what? That business lid is actually healthy. I need to just leave it there so I can succeed at home when I have my children for the short time I have them. Maybe that lid is a blessing. So it could be a reality. It could be a healthy thing. For this season of life, I'll come back to my business later and make it grow. Right now, I want to be a success at home. That might be healthy. And then there's a reality lid. You know, my life at home, I sort of live in a musical. Everybody sings in my house. And so, you know, we just break out in song. It's dinner time, you know, and someone's singing. And so the genre that I choose to sing at home is opera. It's great. Go to bed. You know, I'll do that all the time. But here's the reality. Even though I would aspire to be a popular opera singer, I'm never going to be. It's the reality. I don't have what it takes to be an opera singer. You could bring in the greatest opera coach ever. Didn't you take opera lessons? You could bring in the greatest opera coach ever, and you could train me, and I'm never going to be an opera singer. I'm just going to be the fat lady at the end that goes, oh, you know, at the end. I get it. So you have to analyze it and go, hey, is this a negative lid? Is this a healthy lid? Or is this a reality that I can't do 10 gatherings a week? This is a reality. I just can't do it. So I'm going to do as many as I possibly can. But, you know, as we get there, and that's years from now, but as we go. So you admit, you analyze, and then you adjust. And the adjust is different for everybody based on the lid. Some of you have to do more. Some of you have to adjust. Some of you have to empower more. I don't know what your lid is, but you're going to have to figure that out. Part of the analyzing process is lead into the wisdom of people who might have greater wisdom in that area. You know, as Rylan said it last week, know someone who has a shoe size bigger than you so that you can grow into that shoe size, so you can learn from them. But then make the adjustments that you know you need to make. Because if all you do is say, I admit there's a lid, and I know why that lid is there, and you keep hitting it, you're going to get a headache. And everyone around you is going to get a headache. It's probably why your marriage has a headache. And so what we have to do is we have to adjust. We have to start doing things differently. And when you start living differently, guess what you get? Different results. So start walking differently, start making different decisions, start living different, do the adjustment, and you'll get different results. And when you start to get different results, what you will see grow in you is a hunger to see where are the other lids in my life that I can change. Moses was going to be a better leader because he listened to Jethro. So let me break it down this way really quick as I get ready to end. Let me just make this real practical, give you something to chew on and move on. Maybe one of your lids when it comes to engage strongly, maybe one of your lids is you just never make church a priority. You just do it when it works. And maybe to engage strongly, what you need to do is say, you know what? We're going to be a home that does church, and then we'll plan after that. But church is a priority for us. We're not every other week attenders. We're going to become every week attenders because we need this in our life to carry us and be who God wants us to be, the gathering of believers. Hebrews says, do not forsake the gathering together of believers. Maybe to engage strongly, you need to remove the lid that's actually holding you back, that you've never engaged in the way that you're supposed to. In fact, I would say serve one and attend one. Serve one and attend one. Maybe it's giving generosity lid. The truth is, maybe you're just a spiritual tightwad. And you don't honor God with your finances, and that's been a lid in your life. And you're like, yeah, I'm not all about that tithe thing. Okay, great. Be a New Testament giver. That's giving sacrificially. That's actually a lot more. My wife and I have committed to giving generously every year we've been married. We've raised our giving. And to do that, we want to be sacrificial givers. So just not as your pastor, as just Kevin and Tiffany. We look for the things that we can say no to so we can give more. That's sacrificial giving. That's what my owner tells me he wants to do with his finances, and I'm just the chief executive officer to honor him in that way. For some of you, you need to remove that lid. Maybe it's inviting ferociously. You have a lid there. You're just like, I don't want anybody to know I'm sort of a secret Christian. You don't find any of those in the Bible. There's no such thing as a secret Christian. I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ that set me free, for it is the power of salvation. Woo! There's a good King James Version Bible right there. And maybe you need to remove the lid of inviting ferociously. Now, here's the question. How did Moses respond to all this? Oh, it's fascinating. How did Moses respond? You read it yourself and figure it out. Exodus chapter 18. You read it this week and figure out how did Moses respond when Jethro said, this is not good, son-in-law. But I'll give you a teaser. I'll tell you the very last verse. Exodus 18:27. It's a great ending. Here's what it says. Soon after this, Moses said goodbye to his father-in-law, who returned to his own land. Would you grab your connection card? Let's respond. Hey, if you're here, and I encourage all of you to fill this out. We do this every week. If you're here and you've never given your life to Jesus, he's knocking on your lid right now, going, hey, if you remove this, I will give you life worth living. I will walk with you. I'll be your friend. But that lid is stopping me from helping you the way I want. Just say, Jesus, I need you to be my owner. I want to follow after you. Mark that box. I give you my life. I give my life to Jesus. We'll follow up with you. We'll send you information on what the next steps are and encourage you to join next steps. Great thing. Maybe it's the second one, which is real simple. Ouch! I'm hitting a lid. That's the admit it. And you can mark more than one of these. I don't know if you do that or not. So you can mark the next one. The frustrations I'm experiencing are my own doing. The frustrations I'm experiencing are my own doing. I'm hitting a lid and giving everyone else a headache. And then lastly, I'm going to do what it takes to raise my lid. I'm going to do what it takes to raise my lid. Would you stand with me? Father, right now in this moment, here's what I ask. You're so creative. Would you give us divine ideas right now to break through the lids that we have? Right now, speak to us. Drop a thought in our mind to break through the lids that we should not have. If we have a lid, help us to accept it and realize that for this season, we need to make other adjustments so we don't get a headache. But Father, I do pray that you will give us divine ideas that lead us to the place you want us to go. That no lid holds us back from where you want to take us, I pray. In Jesus' name.